Hi everybody, welcome to the Reconnect to Self podcast. I am your host, my name is Scott. I am a filmmaker. I'm here with my wife Tracey, who is a counsellor. Hello Tracey.
Hi.
And together we run the Reconnect to Self retreats here in Perth, which is in Western Australia. Now you might have noticed we're still in the same clothes as we were in the previous episode, and that is because we've broken this topic into two parts. It was, are we calling it your wellness journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's Tracey's wellness journey, all the different things that Tracey has tried over the years, in particular the last few years, where she's gone down the rabbit hole of many different topics. And so we wanted to, I guess, summarize them, let you know what worked for Tracey, maybe what didn't, the ones that I've followed on with, because I'm usually a little bit behind Tracey and I will copy her and do the ones that I think are interesting to me. So we got about halfway and we thought, why don't we just divide this into two episodes? So here we are.
Perfect.
I know you're well because I asked you that about 45 minutes
You
ago.
did, and I'm still well.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, so where did we get up to? Where are we going to kick
So we
this
got
off
up to
from?
the bit where we were talking about the different groups that I kind of explored. So one was where I was going to the beach and they would hug you, when you first got there. And then there was another one where I did a breathwork and meditation class.
I should also point out, I didn't do it on the previous episode, that it's still running. You put yourself out of your comfort zone for those. Mm-hmm. And I think, not everyone does that. I guess, why do you do that?
I think by that point in my journey, I'd started liking being around myself and kind of just had the confidence then to go, well, I've got to sort this out for me. And I didn't want to rely on anybody else. Previously, it would be if I was wanting to do something new, so say I wanted to try a new yoga class or a new whatever, I would never do that on my own. I would say to a friend, hey, do you want to come to such and such? And I would always try and recruit or rope someone in. So even that very first breath work, I did it with a friend, like the one at the Scarborough Beach, I did that. But kind of from then onwards, I just did things on my own. And people could join me, of course, but it wasn't that I had to have someone with me now because of that. Funny enough, I was just going to actually mention, I had a friend the one that moved away, she moved to Brisbane. So she was over at one point and I said to her, do you want to come to one of these classes with me on a Wednesday? And she did. And then she continued doing meditations and things afterwards. So that actually changed things for her as well. That one group, she continued that practice. I think she still does it now. So that's still years later for her as well. So sometimes even just experiencing it in a group can be the thing that makes you go, okay, this is nice.
What would you say to people who the thought of doing what you did and going to, and you don't have to go to a group, I'm just mentioning this because if you're like me, the thought of going to a group with a bunch of strangers, and I know you don't really love doing that either. What would you say to them if they're like, I just could never.
Well, I'd say bring the friend then. I'd say get the friend to come or do the other things. Like I only did a couple of classes or a couple of things with, randoms. Yep. Most of the time this stuff was just me on my own or going to an appointment or these are just practices that I've done. They're not a group setting. What have I done? 3 or 4 breathworks? No, maybe 4 breathwork classes, intense breathwork classes, but the rest of the time it's just been breathworks on my own. Plus
the beach group thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did about 4 or 5 of those.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that were some of the things I did. I've always loved clairvoyance. So that was just a continual, checking in and going to clairvoyance. And for me, I know people have different opinions about that, but I've always been given very specific and accurate information. So that's why I feel it's valid and helpful for me. I obviously know people's opinions and people in our own families are very opinionated about that. But I did that. I started learning more. Actually, I should also say what I did, and this is because of you. So Scott made me, and I will say make because it was a firm push, made me develop a work social media account.
Yes, definitely.
So he wanted me to start putting more things on social media. That didn't really feel natural to me. I mean, thankfully you've done that because it actually does feel a bit better for me now. But in the beginning I was like, this is like my worst nightmare. But because I then developed a work account, I started only following people on that account that was wellness based.
Yeah.
And so my scrolling changed. So no longer was I looking at random things that my friend went out on the weekend. I was starting to look at tips and tricks, and people want to share information. So suddenly I'm looking at anything from how to end back pain to nutritional things. But one of the, and what was the band that I liked? Flutes. he did this different flute music, and it would clear your chakras and stuff, but I just liked the sound of it. I just thought it was beautiful. So that was always kind of my happy place when I'd scroll and learn a tip or hear someone sharing something. I really liked that. And it's all coming from beautiful energy. Like sometimes when you go on social media, you're hearing all the crap or you're hearing bad news and things, but no, when I was scrolling and it's on my work account, all good stuff. Otters, I had otters on there. Anything that would make me feel happy.
Well, I think that's a really, really good point, and probably people would never think about that. So, because you don't have to have, your own business. The Instagram app allows you to create a whole nother account, still the same app. I think you press once, twice.
And just switch your accounts.
Switch your account. Two presses on the screen, and you've switched your account, and you can then cultivate that feed to maybe be something a little bit more for you that is about, your wellness and...
Or whatever you're interested in. So for me, because I would then click on these things, then of course the algorithm catches up with that and suddenly you start hearing more and more things. But it was always things I was drawn to. So one of the people that was on there, she's a vocal transformational coach. So she believes that, the voice has lots of power to heal and the vibrations and things. And she actually taught me about the vagus nerve. So it was through her videos that I learned about the vagus nerve. Now, I'm a mental health social worker. Why am I hearing about this from Instagram? Why is this not in my degree? Why is this not part of our professional development? But it's not.
Yep.
So I've had to do a lot of my own learning around these things. So, so I learned about the vagus nerve and how we can calm ourselves down, and humming can be one of the things that activates our vagus nerve, which is our largest nerve in our body. It lets us know that we're safe. Using humming, we can activate our vagus nerve. So I started learning about humming. This is probably not in order, but I definitely was doing daily stretching and rolling, which I've done that for years.
I know we've touched on your back issues. I don't know if we've really...
We've probably never gone right into it.
Well, why don't we spend 5 minutes just... Because I think surely there's going to be people watching this who can, what is it, empathise?
Yeah.
Empathise with back
so,
pain?
So it was when the kids were little, I think I have mentioned this before on a podcast, this rings a bell, but it was the picking up and putting down of the kids that was probably making my back a bit unstable. And I was doing a workout one day and I was doing what they call a Russian twist, which is with a medicine ball and you're twisting your body side to side as working your abs. And in that movement, all of a sudden I felt something, and it was pretty much from then onwards that I had back issues.
Yep.
And it would come and go, and I would see physios and chiros. And I remember counting up in my diary once, I'd seen the chiro 20 times, and it was precautionary. I was so fearful about it happening again. And then something he did actually aggravated something, and then he couldn't fix it. It was a remedial massage person that managed to fix my back after that. So I kind of lost a little bit of faith.
I can speak on chiropractors. I've seen maybe 4 different ones, and I would say they're all good. They can all adjust you, but in my experience, if you're just going there and they're spending 5 minutes just going, it might be good to have a look around for someone else. Like I've changed to the guy I'm seeing now, because I really rate chiropractors. Mm-hmm. I really rate them. Like my posture was horrendous. I was getting headaches, and that was really impacting me. I love going to the chiro. So I know some people don't like them, but I do. The guy that I see now, I've probably been seeing him for 3 or 4 months. His sessions are 30 minutes, and you can tell he just loves it. He's so passionate. He's getting to know me.
Is this Greg?
Greg recommended him.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I'm happy to say I go to Karanup chiropractor. His name's Brent. And he's just so passionate. And I love that. I when I was going in for, I said 5, it might have been a maximum of 10 minutes, but it was all very transactional, and it was always the same thing. Like, now I go and he's asking me, how's the shoulder, how's this, how's that, doing different things depending on how I answer him, and you can just tell that he cares. So I know some chiropractors get a bad rap. I think there's good ones out there.
Oh, I think there's loads of good ones. I actually think the person I saw, I actually found out later through different things that, he wasn't the best. So,
that guy.
That guy.
I remember him.
So, yes. So, other people I've definitely had good experiences with. But, I think that particular person, I'll say person, kind of put me off. And so then you had gone and seen somebody or talked to somebody, and they recommended a osteopath. And this guy had so much knowledge. He was in his 70s, and he practiced out of his house.
Yes.
And this house was disgusting.
Yeah.
This house, I used to think to myself, how soon can I wash my hands after leaving there? And even the gown that he would give you, it wouldn't really have the Velcro working at the end. You're not sure when that's been washed before. But mentally, I used to say to myself, just pretend it's some guru in Bali and you wouldn't care.
He was a guru.
Oh, it was amazing. He was hands down the best practitioner I've seen. He had a wealth of knowledge, and it was because he was drawing from both his trainings that he'd done, through his uni and whatever else, but he also had done lots of trainings in Asian countries. So he had just a lot of traditional knowledge as well. Yeah, and he just knew the whole system.
And I want to, something popped into my head, and I think this is important, is the way I view my physical and I guess mental health now is I view it as I'm going to put together a team of the best people who can help me because I think I deserve that.
Yes.
So I want to have the best chiropractor. I've talked about in another episode my old farts training where I go to the
class.
It's functional movement. So I've got him. I've just, hand-picked the people. Don't be scared to go and see someone else, I guess. That's the point.
Yeah. You've got to make sure that person is for you, or, the knowledge that they're sharing with you resonates for you, or you understand it and things, because sometimes people can talk and give a lot of information, but you might not understand what they're getting at.
Yeah.
I went to a chiro that was amazing, but lots of what he said I didn't really understand. Yeah. So this guy was really, really good. Only problem was, one, I worried that he was going to be close to retirement because he should have been retired already. I thought, how much longer have I got of this guru? But he was also very far away from me. Yeah. And at the time, Amelia was quite little. And so if I was going to go for an appointment, it actually was like a 3-hour round trip between the travel and the appointment and everything else. So it actually made it really tricky to get regular appointments. And so in the end, I just started doing lots of stretching and rolling myself. So, I've managed to help myself in that way. But that's the reason I'm bringing this up in terms of my wellness journey, is because stretching and rolling has kept my back strong, and me not needing to see a health professional for years and years and years now. But that's because of that daily commitment that I have. But again, this is not hard. Like, I literally am just bending over and feeling like, where do I feel like I need to stretch right now? Where am I putting my arm? And I'm just feeling into my body at that moment. I'm not following a routine. I'm not following some sort of set procedures. I'm just feeling in my body that moment, going, where does that need to twist? And the amount of times that I'll do that, I'll be like, oh, it'll crack and it'll twist, and
there's a movement you do most nights that's like a shotgun going off, which is, I think, is your hips. Yeah. And you know how to get that.
I've learned. So I just feel like if someone was to tell me how to stretch in those ways, I wouldn't be able to copy. It's only through me feeling into the movements that I get those results. So just feel into your body, roll, stretch. Like, I obviously have a roller and a ball and things that help me, but you don't need that. You can stretch in lots of different ways. So even just start there. So that was one thing that I was doing a lot of.
I would say make the commitment. Like, again, I know I keep harping on about this, but you do it every night. I've probably been a lot worse of an example because my flexibility has never been amazing. I talked in the previous episode that it is a lot better now, and I do devote a little bit more time now to doing it because I'm seeing results. So I guess I would just say, like, it's not going to happen overnight, but if you make a commitment to do it, if that's one of the things on Tracey's list that you're going to choose, just persist with it because it will pay off eventually.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because I remember going to a particular gym, and I remember my friend used to be really, really good at the rower because she could stretch forward more. And at the time, when I would joke with her, I would be able to get my hands just past my knees. That's as far down as I could bend without my back being so tight. Now I can have my hands flat to the floor with my knees straight. That's how much I've improved my back.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I just want to pitch this for people who are listening going, well, I've never touched my toes and I never will be able to. That was me. I could never, ever, ever touch my toes. And now, like, I'm pretty close. Like, I know my knees are slightly bent, but it's the closest I've ever been in my whole life. And it's a really, really nice feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I was showing off to my mum the other day, not that she was massively impressed, but...
No, she pointed out the bent knees.
Yeah, she pointed out my knees were bent. But I was showing it off to people that I could now get pretty close to touching my toes. So don't rule it out. You can change your body.
Yes. So that brings me into, I was continuing my regular gym sessions. So I've always been very active and always gone to gyms pretty much my whole life. So I was doing my gym sessions and things. Going back to my back, on a trip to Bali, was it last year? I think it was last year. I had a really awful flight, and then I ended up with, actually it wasn't that moment, but I had a really bad flight and it really threw my back out on that flight, and so I was in a lot of pain when I was in Bali. So I tried different modalities over there, including, which you did also, we went to
the healer.
The healer.
Well, we still have the thing. Have you still got yours on?
No, mine's come off.
I did it. Oh, mine's still going strong. This little wristband for anyone listening.
Yeah, it was a blessing.
Like
it was
an old school friendship bracelet from the 90s.
Yes, but it was part of their blessing that they did. So I did it with one of my friends, and then you went there with our daughter a couple of days later and did it. So that was quite an experience. Do you want to share about what your experience of the healer was?
Look, again, like, I just think why not try these things? Like, I'm not going to say I went to this healer and had a life-changing experience. But it was really interesting, and I think bringing our daughter and exposing her to that was good too. Like, you know, she sat with me that whole day. I think we were gone for like 4 hours, and she didn't whinge at all the whole time. So I think exposing her to that. So all he sort of, I can't quite remember, but it was a little bit of sort of running his hands without touching you. Like, is it like Reiki a little bit? But then it was... Then he gave me an absolute brutal massage.
Yes, he hurt me as well. He was digging into my hips. It was awful.
Yes, yeah, it was very painful.
Yeah. I just kept thinking, it's got to work. You know, he's going to help me. He's going to help me.
Yeah. And then he gave me some tips. I couldn't remember exactly what they were, but I left there going, yeah, it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying everything you're going to do is life changing, but at least we're open to giving it a go.
Yes.
And I still wear this friendship bracelet thing that he gave us, and
it's a blessing.
Okay, a blessing. I know it's not a friendship bracelet, but even if it's a placebo, I like having it on. Yeah, and I've never taken it. Well, I mean, it doesn't come off; you have to cut it off. But I've had this now a year and a half.
Yeah. So we both did that. We're both open to, and that's where some things land for me and whatever. And at the time, it was good, but I don't know that I would go back to do that. So,
well, we didn't. We went back a year later and we didn't go and visit him.
Yeah. So I didn't do that. Another thing that I've done is I was learning, you know, maybe through my breathworks and things, about cold immersions. So when I mentioned in the last episode about a man called Wim Hof, and he really advocates for cold immersions and things. So I think that's where maybe I had heard. That's actually probably why some of my spiritual learnings. I was drawn to things. Even on Netflix and even on like the mainstreaming services, anything that was wellness related or mental health related, I was watching. So Gwyneth Paltrow had a program called the Goop Lab. Yep. And so one of the things, actually she did heaps of different things, including I think psychedelics was one of them, but cold immersions was one of the topics. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I don't know what I started. Maybe I started with that beach group where that was what they did. But anyway, a few years ago, I decided that I was going to just use our pool in the winter and go in our pool. So I did it every single day for 3 weeks. I wanted to do a month, but I got to the 3-week mark and it just dropped off. And I was like, oh, that's enough. Yeah. But every day for 3 weeks, I would play a song and get into our pool, and my goal was to get through the song and to have my my whole neck emerge. So I didn't go head under, but that's because I'm a bit precious with my hair and I didn't want to have to redo my hair. But yeah, I would be in there for that whole time. And
the song was Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, and we use that on our individual retreats now, and everyone loves that. Whereas
because it sums it up.
It's funny. It's just the one that I chose. You know, in the beginning, and then my gym got a bath, cold bath, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, ice bath.
Ice bath. That's it. Yeah, they got an ice bath, and I did that with my friends a few times, and yeah, it was full on.
Well, I remember because you can see the pool from our bedroom window. I'd be lying in bed and see you, and it was freezing. It was the middle of winter, like brutally cold. And again, I know I keep harping on about this, but you committed to it. You didn't make a month, but 3 weeks is pretty friggin' amazing. Let's talk about some of it, because I do like, look, I don't do it often. I do it on the retreat. I like the cold immersion. Like, talk to me about some of the benefits of that.
What they say, one of the benefits mentally is you've actually regulated your body. So you come into that cold immersion very dysregulated. Your body is going into that fight and flight kind of thing. But by you being able to really calm your body down, it shows you that you can do that. And if you think about how we move through our lives nowadays, we're not really ever uncomfortable. You know, we're always warm enough. We're always fed, we're not thirsty, like all of our needs are really taken care of. So compared to back in, you know, primitive times where, you know, there's a lot more safety issues and a lot more, well, there wouldn't be anxiety back then. So nowadays people are worrying about things that aren't truly life-threatening. And it's because we're never uncomfortable. So the moment we have something that's a little bit uncomfortable, we worry about that, but that's not really that difficult. So it's an opportunity for you to overcome and regulate yourself, you know, when you're dysregulated. So practicing that. It's very good for your inflammation. So there's lots of wellness, you know, benefits, you know, when it comes to our body and how that handles that. You have to Google.
I think there's stuff about it's almost like an adrenaline rush.
Oh yeah, it does do that. They say that it can be almost like you've had however many lines of Coke or like however many hits of sugar or something or other in terms of the response in your body. It can give you. It
gives you a really, really big buzz once you come out.
Yeah, and that's both on a physical level, but also the pride in yourself for achieving that was really difficult. So again, sometimes we're not putting ourselves in situations where we're challenged.
And there's obviously the healing benefits from the muscles. That's why.
That's the inflammation.
That's why all the sports athletes, you know, will do an ice bath after they play their game, is because the benefits in the recovery.
Yes.
I can't go into what those are.
Yeah.
I know it's something.
But people can Google and they can see.
Yeah.
But if you watched,
I think it's actually. I don't even know if it's worth saying, but it's something to do with obviously your blood vessels are constricting and going more into your body, and so I would get a lot of lactic acid when I played soccer, and my legs would be really sore. And so I was playing soccer in the winter. I would go I'd go waist deep in the pool because I just didn't have the courage to go all the way in, but I was focusing on my legs. I know one of the benefits is that once you come out and your body starts to warm up again, it's essentially flushing, the blood is flushing through and getting rid of a lot of that lactic acid. That's a real simpleton's explanation. But you can also go and look at Goop Lab and Iceman, Wim Hof, any of that. It. But that one, if you have a pool, do it. I highly recommend it. And if you don't, go to the beach and do it, because, and especially if you're struggling mentally, I think it's really a really
That's
good
why
one.
these groups, the group that I was going to at the beach do that, because it's very beneficial for that mental clarity and for your body and things. So that's why they do that even in the winter. They do it literally every single day of the year. So that was one of the things that I did. What else did I do? Normal tarot cards, just that I do that myself. Whenever we go away, I take tarot cards with me and do everyone's readings. I remember I started watching something on Gaia. I think it was called The Earthing Movie. And I got about 10 minutes into The Earthing Movie and Scott was out and I was like, right, he needs to hear this. This is a person that never has bare feet.
Yes.
Never takes his shoes off. In fact, when we go to Bali, when we've been to the places where they get, you remember this, when we got pedicures and manicures, and you'll look at the people that get their feet shaved with all the stuff, and you'll say, why can't I get that? Why aren't they using that on me? And I said, your feet are like baby feet. Your feet don't touch the ground. Your feet are pristine. So they never needed razors with you. They just gave it a bit of a rub.
Little soft
Feet,
baby
yes.
feet.
So as soon as I started watching this, and because this movie has a lot of science in there, I was like, right, because at this point, Scott's thinking everything's woo-woo and dismissing a little bit of...
Well, I want to just take a step. Well, let's get into grounding in a minute. But the tarot cards, because you really just rushed over that, I wanted to ask you why you like doing them. Because you do them quite a bit.
Yeah. Maybe every couple of months I might pull them out. Or if we go away.
Yeah, and you do them for me.
Yeah, I do it for other people.
Like my guess would be... Okay, even from the skeptic's point of view, right?
Yeah.
I can see the benefit in them because I feel like you can often find validation for whatever it is you're looking for.
Yeah, it's like a little message for yourself that feels like it's a keep going, it's a little encouragement, and so I see that as a real self-care because I'm doing that just for me. I'm just getting that message that I'm wanting, or I've asked that question and see what the cards sort of turn out.
You've done them on the retreat also, and people really resonated.
They really resonated with them. In fact, they were joking, saying Tracey's
rigged them.
Yeah, she's doctored the cards, Tracey's done, and I'm like, I didn't even touch the cards. I'm just reading you the messages in the book.
So what is it about every single one that happened for each one you did on the retreat, the first time and the second time?
Well, that's when we'd get into woo-woo because I don't really know the answer to that. I don't know why that landed so much.
Well, let's look at it from the skeptical point of view then. So let's not even worry about the woo-woo side of it, but from a skeptical point of view, let's just say, is it like an affirmation that you're on the right track, or you need to change, or...
But it can be all of those things.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the person, how they take it.
The other thing I think is sometimes it can be just a bit of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I only ever really see it as being a little bit of fun. Like, I don't take huge stock in the cards and be like, right, that means that today I need to... It's just for me like that was a nice little moment that I gave myself, and that message was nice. So that's why I skipped over that a little bit, because it is quite lighthearted for me. It's not like a practice that I really put a huge amount of stock in.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to earthing.
So I was watching this movie and I thought, I need to watch this with you. So I paused the movie and waited for you to get home, and then we restarted the movie. And then, well, why don't you tell everyone what you thought when you saw that movie? Because this was the first point where you were really into something that I'd shown you. Like, you really took to that. At first, when I was on my spiritual journey, you probably were watching me from the side like, good job. Like, happy to sort of watch me do these things. But you weren't really you weren't participating.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's called the Earthing movie, is that right?
And you can watch it on YouTube for free.
Yes. Highly recommend this one. I guess, to me, I could see the science in it, and to me it just made sense. So there's one part of that. There's lots and lots of good parts of the film. The one that really sticks out is they had the electricity reading meter. Mm-hmm. And they had someone standing there and they were holding the electrodes, or however they did it, I can't remember exactly. And the person had shoes on. And I can't remember which way the meter's going, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then they took their shoes off and planted their bare feet on the earth, and you could see the meter do a good thing, whether it's going up or down, I can't remember. But it just showed to me, okay, so if you put your bare feet on the earth, this current is going to flow through you. You're going to be grounded. Because it sort of talks about, my dad's an electrician, my brother's an electrician. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that electricity has to ground. And that's essentially what we're doing. So the more I watched it, the more it just made sense. Right. Of course the earth is going to have some sort of electrical charge. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it makes absolute sense. And if I'm shielding because I've always got rubber-soled shoes on, and then I worked out, as we talked about with my baby feet, very few times that my feet are touching the earth, I was like, I got to change this. And I could I do it every day. I do it after I walk Lenny in the morning. Now I go and stand on the front yard.
It's the garden bed. He stands in a garden
Well,
bed.
because we used to have lawn when we recently renovated the front yard, and now we have artificial lawn, so I've got to go stand on the mulch.
Yeah.
And I look like a bit of a crazy person because we live across the road from a park, and so people walk their dogs, and I'm kind of standing there doing my morning visualization. And even in the winter when it's freezing, I'm standing there in bare feet. And look, I can't tell you that it's changed anything specifically, but the things that it does do, I feel better just mentally going, okay, I've done that, I've grounded. I use that time while I'm grounding to visualize my day and to, sort of map it out, not from a logistical point of view, but how do I want to feel? I use it for gratefulness.
So being intentional.
Yeah, just being intentional with my time. And then now I've added, so I do that for, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, but around 5 minutes. And then I'll go do some stretching on the front yard for 5 minutes and get my body moving and stuff.
Where did you learn that?
Yeah, from you.
No, it was from Mike Chang.
Well, Mike
it was Mike Chang.
We've established. Yeah.
But Mike Chang was on my Instagram that inspired
your
me.
work, Instagram, yeah. And it's just a nice way to start the day. And watching that movie, I was just nodding along. Going,
That made sense.
And
they gave examples. They gave the guy that was the main person in the story talked about his mum and an injury that she had, and the moment he started getting her to ground, she healed. And so just hearing what they call those are expanders.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in our last episode about you could be someone's expander, because as soon as you hear what's possible, then that expands your mind a bit. And so that movie expanded our mind, where we're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that this could heal that person or that could work in that way. So we also got a grounding sheet, which is on our bed currently. So again, we don't necessarily notice the difference where we're like, oh my gosh, that's such a shift, or we're just trying to just go, why wouldn't we?
Yeah. Yeah. So for anyone who missed that just then, it's a bed sheet that you plug in to the wall.
Yes.
Right.
So it literally has electricity going through it.
Yeah. And when we put that on, I don't really think I woke up the next morning going, oh my God, that was amazing. But it didn't cost that much money. Just put it into we'll give it a go.
And the other thing that was kind of around the time that we got into the grounding movie or the earthing movie was we also watched on Netflix. I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, so I'm not sure where they could find it, but Fantastic Fungi. And that I we both highly recommend. We've made our friends watch it when we've been away with them.
We forced that on numerous people.
Yes. We figure it's for their well-being.
Yeah. And I just think that is a mind expander movie.
Yes. And so I'll just quickly say why we found that mind expanding is because mushrooms are the largest species on the whole planet. So you and I both didn't know that. I'm sure lots of people out there don't know that. And it also was talking about what's happening underground and the mycelium network that's underground. And they actually say that with that old man training that you do, old fart training, whatever you call it.
It's not officially called.
No, I know, that's just
myofascial.
Yes. But they talk about the fascia as being very similar to the mycelium network in terms of the way that it communicates through the body, it shares information, it shares resources, that sort of thing. So that's what the mycelium network does underneath the ground that we all don't know. They call it almost like the internet underneath us.
Yeah.
So again, that kind of got our curiosity around nature, and we wanted to be in nature more.
Well, something else about that is, so on one of the holidays we're talking about, it was a little 2 days in Jarrahdale, an hour from where we live, but we were lucky enough to be right on the edge of the forest in this little Airbnb, and we made our friends watch it. And then the next day, you remember we went for a walk in the forest?
Yeah.
And because they'd watched that movie the night before, their experience of being in the forest and being in nature
was different.
Was totally different.
Yeah.
So even just stuff like that, they had a really nice experience.
They also started grounding after that. Do you remember?
Yep.
Because they also live across the road from the park, so they were for a period of time afterwards.
Yes.
Going to their park
Yes.
and grounding. So we inspired them for a period of time. So we were starting to then appreciate nature a lot more.
Yes,
and
that's
I think,
a big one.
Yeah, and I think around that time, so previous to that, we would go to hotels or, places where
The Crown.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so once we started watching these things and feeling like much more at peace in nature, we started booking Airbnbs and places that were much more secluded and not around lots of people, definitely not high rise, like a hotel where you can't even open a window.
Yep.
We just stopped doing that.
Yep.
It just no longer appealed to us.
Yeah. And now so when we go there, we'll get up, maybe do a breath work, and then go for a walk in nature. Mm-hmm. And they're just nice things to do, and it makes you feel a bit calmer, and I think it helps with your mental health.
Well, it helps your nervous system.
Yeah.
It's beautiful for your nervous system. Actually, speaking about all that, so moving away from nature, which obviously is a big tip, getting into nature, because I was doing that with my beach walks, and obviously I was grounding when I was at the beach. But yeah, anything in nature is really, really lovely and helpful.
Well, I think also, just to quickly, one other thing is, I think it puts things in perspective. So when you're worrying about stuff that's going on at work or whatever it is, I know all of those things seem big. I've experienced all of them, as I've talked about in episode 2 with my dealings with anxiety. I think when you're in nature, or even at nighttime looking up at the stars, I think it helps put things in perspective, and some of the big stuff that you're worrying about maybe doesn't seem quite as big. It's not going to fix it, just makes you feel a bit better.
But also might because you're present in those moments.
Yep.
You know, you're not in your head thinking about
grateful.
all the stuff.
It's very hard to be anxious when you're feeling grateful.
Yeah, you're noticing all the pretty things around you, or you're listening to the sounds, and
yep.
Yeah, you're just being in your senses.
Yep.
So, along with grounding, where was I going to go with that? Oh, it was around the news. So during COVID, we got so sick of hearing all the bad news, the depressing news, we actually stopped watching the news. And I was a person that always had some sort of noise in the background, and usually it would just be the TV. So therefore we were getting bulletins, we were getting all the news updates constantly. And we started just realizing that that wasn't healthy for us. So
it's brutal. Like now, I don't know if you noticed, but last night on this TV here, I'm pointing for those listening, we have a TV in the shot, and I was trying to get American football on, but when I turned the TV on, the news was on.
Yeah.
In the 30 seconds or 45 seconds it took me to get the app working, I heard how bad the cost of living crisis was. And I used to work in the building industry, so, you know, I used to know all about it. But there's some stuff going on in the building industry, and house prices are going to go nuts, and it costs this much money to build a house. But you realize everything is negative. You can't do a lot about what they're telling you other than worry about it.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel absolutely terrible.
Yeah. I remember once turning it over, because same thing, we don't watch it, but of course, and okay, I'll go back. When you were doing that last night, I saw the logo and I saw the man on the thing, and I had my headphones on the half ear, like I was saying, like so I can hear what's going on in the house. But as soon as I saw that you had the news on, I popped it on the full ear. I didn't want to hear anything.
Yeah,
like I'm so hypervigilant too.
Good.
Yeah. And even when I've been, say, at a cafe and waiting in line, and I've been in a dome and I glance next to me at the newspaper, and the headline's about some sort of shooting or some sort of terrible thing that's happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to get a coffee and I'm hearing that kind of news. Like, no, I don't want to have that on my nervous system, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's being protective of our nervous system by not having all that news. And do you know what? People will tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Mind you, our children tell me what's going on. Today they told me about there's some sort of hurricane in Florida. Tommy told me.
Oh yeah. I have heard about those.
I haven't heard about that
which
either.
is a great example. Like I heard about that at soccer the other night, then watching Tommy play soccer.
Yeah. So people will tell you what you might need to know. You are not going to live under a rock, but you're going to protect your nervous system.
And people will say that's being ignorant. You need to know what's going on around the world. And my answer to that is why? Yes, we donate to charities and we try and help in various ways for causes that we care about. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff that is happening around the world is atrocious. Me knowing every single detail of all that, it's not helping me. And speaking pretty frankly, I can't change a lot of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm protecting myself.
Yeah, and that's going to be helpful for you and then everyone else around you, because your mood's not going to be changed or you're not going to be feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
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 So that was a big game changer for us. It might not be for everybody, but
I think we did change someone's mind on the retreat who was a very big,
yes,
he
did
big,
it first thing in the morning, didn't he?
Yeah, because that's the other thing is you put the morning show on when you're getting ready for work or whatever you're doing.
Or on your people's phones. They often have the news on their phone.
Yeah.
That's what I think he was doing. He was seeing it straight away, maybe. Yeah.
It's not a great way to start your day.
Yeah. So maybe if there's one tip, delay it.
Yeah, if you want to watch the news, maybe don't do it as soon as you wake up.
But I'd also encourage you not to do it before bed. Like, how disciplined am I with even violence? Like, we can't watch certain shows and movies because I don't want that in my head right before bed. Like, that's not good for my brain to have that kind of content. Your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and, what's made up. That's why we get anxiety, right? So if we're watching something horrific, your brain's going to take all that in.
And we love a crime drama, and especially a British crime drama, which usually involves a murder or two. So our nighttime viewing has changed dramatically. That's one that I would still choose to watch that stuff at night because I know it's not real. I know it's made up. But no,
but I told you the other day,
adamant on that one.
we listened to something the other day and it was in the afternoon, and I told you the next morning I said, I had a thought about that bloody thing that we just listened to.
I know, you're very protective of what you put in your head.
Yeah. So, so maybe delay it if that's something you still want to, keep across of. Another thing that I came across through my listening to different podcasts, I kept hearing it along the way, and I thought, I need to look into this, and I kept hearing it, and it was called Human Design.
Oh, yes, a big one.
Yes, this is a big one for us. So I was starting to listen to this podcast where the lady it's called the Human Design Podcast. She's Australian. And I was just getting curious. I was like, what is this thing that they're talking about all the time? So essentially it's similar to astrology, I would say. Like when you're getting your own chart, you've got to put in your date of birth, your time of birth, your location of where you were born, and then it comes out with a big chart. But it gives you loads of information around your energy, your eating, your personality, the gifts you bring into the world, what else? How you make decisions best, loads of things. Anyway, so again, I was just open to this. So I downloaded an app when I'd heard about, the different things. And because it was only, I think it was $8.99 US, so maybe $15 Australian. So I thought, I'll just try that for a month. So I did mine. And again, because I'm open to things, I was like, that resonates, but I'm a bit biased because I've discovered this. So then I did my friend, and hers was coming up pretty accurate as well. And I was like, okay, well, that's two of us. And then you and I were going to Bali at the time. And I thought, I'll do your reading when we're away. And one of the examples about food that they told you about your type was that you should eat food that is room temperature and above. And the funny thing about that, if you remember, is you literally just told me on that holiday that you stopped eating you stopped having smoothies for breakfast and you'd switched to cereal and you were feeling much better.
Yes.
Around
because the smoothies have had ice in it or frozen
fruit,
berries or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I remember where we were sitting in this hotel in Bali and you played it for me. And just side note, the lady's voice on that app.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah, it's called My Human Design by Jenna Zoe, I think her name is. But you can either read the information or you can hear it. But hearing it's so nice when someone's reading that to you.
Yeah, she has a beautiful English accent. And it was spot on. And stuff like that, you just go, how can that be so accurate? I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm a skeptic.
Yeah.
And it was spot on.
And everyone that I've done that with, I think there's only maybe one or two people that it hasn't necessarily resonated for, but I've done like 45 people. If you look at my phone of all the people I've added, because every time I've got a client that's a bit stuck, I'm like, let me just look into this a little bit for you, and you'll turn them.
And so what are the benefits? I think it's similar to the tarot cards. Where it kind of...
Well, for me, one of the biggest things is they try and encourage you just to be you. Like their whole gig is about you bring your essence into the world because that's the magic of you. And we don't want two Traceys or two Scotts. You've got to bring your unique essence.
Yeah.
So it gives people permission to do it their way, that their curiosity is actually what is meant to be their guide. You're not like, so even when I'm joking with you about, the different things you've tried or whatever, like there's no right or wrong. Like you're drawn to the things you're drawn to, but you're supposed to be drawn to those things. And I'm supposed to be drawn to these things.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we will not be bringing everything into the world if I was trying to copy somebody else. Yeah. So it's just that permission giving to be uniquely yourself.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And it makes you feel better about when they say something, because a lot of it is done in a positive way.
Yes, very
So
positive.
they'll say something, it resonates with you, it's a positive thing, and you feel better.
Well, you feel unique and special because you're like, oh, that is me, or that is something that I do. And even your brother. So we did this down south when
Another
we got a
massive skeptic.
family. Oh, he's the worst in terms of that. So I started with my sister-in-law, and hers was really accurate. And even he was like, oh, okay, because of that. And so then I did his. Lucky your mum was there, so I could get his time of birth, because that's the thing people often don't have.
Yep.
And so your mum was able to tell me, and I did his chart. And even he, at that time, was a bit like, begrudgingly, oh, does sound like me. Well, maybe not those words, but he reluctantly gave me a little bit of a
Yes.
positive about it.
Yeah.
I tried to mention it this time on our trip, and he was having none of that. Yeah. But he was open to it the last time.
Yeah.
So I think that it can just give people that sense of, you know, you're supposed to follow your own path. It's your journey. It's what lights you up. It's your curiosities that will lead you down the things that, you know, you're interested in. And that's how it's supposed to be. But the other thing I've found is, because it talks about your energy type and the way that you're supposed to work, there's certain people that aren't supposed to do 9 hours a day and aren't supposed to, you know, do the traditional kind of ways of working. And it's funny because I did one for my friend, and as soon as I told her, I said, oh, you're not supposed to do like a normal 9-hour day. You're best to just, your value is in the changes that you make in a business, or the value that you add to, you know, what you can see in a pattern that you can change for somebody. And she's a go-getter. Like, she gets so much done. She would get done in one day what it would take 4 people to get done. And so she's never going to be working in a place where she's on a full-time role. They'll burn her out.
Yep.
So she needs to work for herself, where she can then be a consultant. She can go on contract, and then she can, not burn herself out. So it's just showing you different ways of working, living, that kind of stuff. So it really resonated for me and for most people that I've done it with.
Amazing. We're around about 45 minutes, which I know is your perfect podcast length.
Okay, so
Is there anything else you would quickly like to touch on?
yes. So the other thing that I did do is, because Scott was very big into his DJing, and you've got that time out that you have to yourself, and obviously music is very good for us.
DJ Scotty Q on YouTube. Look me up.
Yes, he's actually getting...
Close to 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, you're doing well, especially considering how long that's taken you to build. So that's doing really well.
I had 200 for about 2 years with no growth, and then all of a sudden, bang.
You're doing well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice.
So he had his music that, you know, you would enjoy, and that was your time out. And there's a term called being in flow, which basically means when both sides of our brain come together, which is why meditating is so helpful, because normally we're very left brain. We're very much in our analytics and, you know, our critical mind, and we're not coming into our creativity and balancing the way that we think and our brains. So when we're in flow, everything is kind of happening, and we lose time. We feel like, you know, everything's blissful. So you get that when you DJ. But I didn't really have anything apart from my breathwork and meditation that gave me that feeling. So anyway, I saw, probably going through my Instagram, I saw these little, what was that one? That was steel tongue drums that I originally saw. And so, no offense, baby, but Scott is not very good at presents. So I decided one year for Christmas that I was going to buy that for myself.
I was going to point out a little Easter egg on this show, but I moved it out of shot. There's a box of flowers. It didn't look good in the shot, but yes, I did get you a box of flowers recently, which I think was quite nice.
It was quite nice. Yes.
Anyway, go on.
I forgot now.
We were talking about I'm not good at presents.
Oh, okay. And so...
Your drums.
My drums. So I bought the drums for myself, and I bought one for our daughter, and I bought one for my mum, and it was the hit of the Christmas. Everyone was playing these drums. Everyone was loving it. It came with an instruction book, so I was starting to, you know, practice songs and things. But it was just my little happy place. And just by giving myself permission to play, because I think we come at everything thinking we've got to be experts or we've got to sound good. But I knew I wasn't going to sound good. But the actual little drums sounded lovely. So I figured even if I was just tinkering away, the sound coming out of it is lovely. So I don't need to sound good.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
It's funny you mentioned the word play, because I'm making a film about dementia right now. And the lady who has dementia, but she's running a creative writing course for people with dementia, talks about play.
Yeah, we've lost
how we-
play. We don't play anymore.
Yeah.
So that was literally my intention was to give myself more things to do that would be fun and enjoyable. And those little timeouts, those little mindful moments where, when everyone was sorted, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
Like you're DJing and I'm kind of wandering around going, okay, well, what's for me? So that was my chance to do that. I drove the neighbours crazy because I started sitting out the front doing it. So I started with the steel tongue drum, and then again through Instagram I discovered a hand pan. And a hand pan is like, anyone that can't see me, my arms are as big as I possibly could get them right now, and that's how big a hand pan is. And it sort of sits on your lap, and it has these different musical pads almost in it that when you touch it or bang it, then it makes a beautiful sound.
It's a similar sound to like a Jamaican drum in a way that, but because you're using your hands, it's making that metallic, echoey sound. It's quite pleasant sound.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful if you use a mallet, but that's not how you're supposed to actually play them. You're supposed to use your fingers and really strike it really quickly. So even just being able to just sit there and sort of play, and I'll get into flow a little bit, by doing that. So that was something else I got into. So that's another tip. Just anything that you can do that is enjoyable. Maybe it's learning an instrument like I was. Like I wasn't prepared to do a guitar or anything that was maybe going to be a bit more formal. I just was like, I just want to tinker.
Yeah.
I think probably even mindful drawing is up in that category.
You tried colouring in?
Yeah, and actually, for anyone with kids that struggles to play with your kids, I'm not the kind of mum that wants to sit there and play Barbies and dolls and shops and whatever else. That's just mind-numbingly boring to me. I mean, I've done my fair share of it. But
we're past that now.
yeah, so that's not something that I seek out. So I remember trying to think of something to do with my youngest, or our youngest. And we started doing some drawing together and colouring together. And that was kind of nice. And she loved it when I sat next to her and we shared the colours, and she wanted the same colours that I wanted.
And look at her now. What's she into now?
Yeah, she's liking her drawing.
Yeah, does a lot of it.
Yeah, that's probably from your mum. Your mum's an artist, so
yeah.
So having fun, that was something that I did. More of that mindfulness was part of me taking those times, and more gratitude for that. I have always done intermittent fasting, like for years and years and years. And the reason I say that in this kind of journey is because I think that's part of wellness, is just making sure that you're doing things to keep yourself at optimal kind of health. Along those same lines, and I mentioned this on the previous podcast, I started learning more about gut health and minerals and...
we've done a whole show on that one.
Yeah, so learning more about, all
which
those...
I think is episode 7, is my guess.
Yes.
So if you haven't listened to that one, you want to learn more about gut health, because I can talk about that forever. Episode 7.
Yes. So I started learning about, the gut health and things. And then I also, again, I was noticing that this is the other thing. The more that you bring yourself back to your center and you're calm and you're regulated, you start noticing better when you're not feeling so great. So if you're so chaotic and busy and going from one thing to the next, when you're feeling shit, it's really hard to pick that up, because you'll just be putting it down to, it's because I'm busy, it's because I'm stressed about this. But it might not be coming from that. In fact, I would say it's probably not coming from that. It's coming from your wellness and how you're feeling inside. So again, go back to the previous episode and listen to all of that, because it has a massive implication on our mental health, is our physical health.
Yeah.
So I was starting to feel like I wanted to kind of detox my body. And so then I went into and got a colon cleanse. So I won't go into much detail for everyone. But there was a clinic that I went to, and they showed me how to administer this hose and how to use that, and basically it flushes everything out of you. And when I finished that, they said to me, if you're interested, there's a Chinese herb detox you can do, and that just kind of detoxes you in a different way. And so I was like, I was all into that. So I did then 2 boxes of this stuff. So that was like 30 days worth of this Chinese herb detox. That didn't turn out so well. I'm laughing about it now, but I haven't laughed about it. So anyway, that will be another episode, because that threw out my hormones. That completely threw out my hormones. That stripped my body of lots of vitamins and minerals, and threw out my nutrient levels, and really threw off my hormones. So we're still in that journey of rebalance, and poor Scott's suffering along.
Yeah, we'll save that one for
being
another episode. Hey?
Very supportive husband that he is.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, but we will do a whole episode on that, because that is huge, and it's actually given me huge insights into what my clients must be experiencing, where I've never experienced these things before. So that's been good insight. But again, I want to come back to, I wouldn't know these things if I wasn't coming back to my center and then figuring out what pulls me out.
Yes.
If I was just in the middle of a chaotic kind of life, then everything would just jumble
Always,
into
yeah.
one and I wouldn't really know what's coming from where.
Yeah. Well, you've done a really, really good job. Well
Thanks.
done. Well done. All right. Well, I have lots of admin work to do to add all of these links in the description. So I'm going to have to listen to this and write some notes, but I'll link as much as I can of what we talked about into the notes. I can see the camera's about to run out, so I'm going to make this quick. If you want to join our mailing list, visit traceyquayle.com. If you want to follow Tracey on social media, it's at traceyquayle.therapy. Until next time, we'll see you later. I don't have an ending.
You can say go ground yourself.
Go and ground yourself and dabble, have fun and play. Thanks, babe. Good job.
Perfect. Thanks.